Greetings, scholars. Empress B here, present for you. I'm just going to go ahead and jump in. Today we are going to be talking about social justice. So for the past couple of weeks, excuse me, let me say what today is. Today is Friday, August 28, 2020. And school started for us, I think, on the 17th. And so I really have had my head down trying to get everything together. And then virtual school started for our kids on the 24th here in Little Rock. So I've just kind of been grinding. But I looked up as I was ready to get these social justice definitions together. And I realized that the world was on fire, at least the United States of America. Right? Protests where we have had several more shootings, several more killings of Black bodies unnecessarily. And everybody's responding, kind of, right? Are responding at least in their own way. But let's get back to the crux of the issue. What is social justice? So many of you were citing these definitions from the University of San Diego or something like that. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I believe that that's probably just the first thing that you all were able to find. And I'm not going to lie, I've been very disappointed with these definitions of social justice. I think they kind of suck. We definitely need to come up with another definition. It also seems to be very clear that there are people creating these definitions who have not had to deal with any social justice issues or have not taken part in any social justice movements. That's very clear as well. So let's go ahead and share the screen. I think also that they're describing it as now when social justice is an action verb. So you can't describe social justice as now. Anyway, this says that social justice is the view that everyone deserves equal economic, political, and social rights and opportunities. Social workers aim to open the doors of access and opportunities for everyone, particularly those in great need. National Association of Social Workers. Okay, so that's the National Association of Social Workers definition of it, right? So it seems like everyone has their own definition. Oxford Languages. It looks like someone's come in. Let me see who's here. Hello.
Hey, it's me, Osyrus.
Hi, O. How are you? I just got started. How
I'm good,
are you
I'm
doing?
good.
Awesome. Basically, I'm sharing my screen, so you should be able to see what I'm seeing. But I jumped on here to see what these definitions of social justice were online. So I'm basically just taking them through a couple of online definitions that I found. And one of the things that I found is that the definitions are not consistent. It seems like each separate entity is coming up with their own definition of what they think social justice is. Right. And then my other issue is that they keep on describing social justice as a noun as opposed to a verb, because social justice is action, right? It's a process of things happening. It's not something that's separate and stagnant and remote, if that makes sense.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. So Osyrus Bolly has joined us. He is I'll let him describe himself since he's on here, but I'm gonna let you go and get settled a little bit, and then when you're ready to introduce yourself, feel free to jump in and join the conversation and let everybody know who you are.
Yeah.
Okay, it's nobody but us on here. Okay, but yeah. So this is the Oxford dictionary definition of social justice. Again, as you can see, they describe it as a noun, not a verb, right? Social justice is an action. It's something that is taking place. But this describes it as justice in terms of the distribution of wealth, opportunities, and privilege within a society. Individuality gives way to the struggle for social justice. Okay, so in this definition, they say that there are no individuals in social justice, which is not realistic either, or not in the terms of the way that we use it for causes that have to do with the culture, right? And particularly with Black people in America and dealing with racism, right? So my issue with these definitions are that they are all kind of not based on real experiences, right? It's based on fly on the wall experiences or people from the outside looking in. And one of the big things that I am trying to get us to do as scholars is to create and control our own narrative, for us to create and control our own definitions of experiences that we are having, as opposed to people outside of us creating these definitions for us, right? So here's another one. It says, this is the United Nations definition of social justice. It is the view that everyone deserves equal economic, political, and social rights and opportunities. Right. No, that's still the San Diego Foundation. And then they start talking about social workers again. So they must have to go to their social work website or something. Do you know of any definitions that you use online? Or do you just use your personal definitions for social justice?
Honestly, like you kind of said already, social justice has so many definitions. So I just think it's kind of important to define whatever work that you do. If you consider yourself as an advocate for social justice, you kind of have to define your own work and name it, and then basically apply that in whatever ways that you advocate. And so the issues that I focus on as far as like my social justice work is I feel like I do the work because I feel like we need people to do this work for equity and equality, and basically out of moral commitment. And so have a moral commitment to reasons why you're doing something, and you feel like they're righteous, and it's basically based off of equity and equality and justice for all people, and you're making a moral commitment to it, and that's social justice to me.
Feel you, right? So also, would you go ahead and take a second to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, sorry, I had turned my cameras are updating right now. But yeah, my name is Osyrus. I am an artist, activist, dealing with a focus in racial equity work. And I kind of, as an artist, I describe that I use my art and my platform under the theme of liberation arts, because I feel like artistic expression is like really one of the only ways to basically describe what freedom feels like to people. A lot of people understand what freedom is until they, get to express themselves and fully feel comfortable being who they are. And so my art encourages people, and I use my art to encourage people to be who you are and unapologetic about it. And it's under the platform of liberation art because it's liberating to the mind, to the spirit, to the body. And yeah, so that's what I do. So yeah, that's it.
Awesome. I just realized I didn't introduce myself either. I just kind of jumped in. So I'll take a second and do that. My name is China Noun, or Empress B, and I am an educator. I'm also an artist, but my big thing is I want to start having real conversations about what is going on so that we can control the narrative. That's my big thing. I want us to be in control of the conversation around our lives and our daily experiences. I'm tired of other people talking about me. So that's my main objective. But let's get back to it. So Osyrus specifically said for his definition of social justice, he refers specifically to equality and equity, right? For us to understand and to ground social justice. Another interesting thing that O said was that basically social justice or the definition of social justice seems to be contingent upon what you do right now, right? So that particular definition that we found from San Diego had to do with social workers. So social workers, the way that they define social justice was through those means, right? But with the language around social justice being so fluid, it seems as if anyone can make it be whatever they want it to be, right? That's interesting for two reasons, because it seems like social justice is either a newer term or it's a term that's being redefined as we speak. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
go ahead.
Because you know what I'm saying, like you had just small example. Recently, they unveiled this statue with three women on it. Sojourner Truth, Susan B. Anthony, and I forget who the other woman was. It'll come to me in a second. But um, basically, what happened is they put these women together as like, yeah, it was Elizabeth Stanton. That's who it was. I just can't. But they put all these women together in a statue. I think it was in New York City, and it was basically just talking about the women's movement, how important the women's movement was. And, you know, they're all considered like icons in social justice. But if you go back and look at the history of Susan B. Anthony, she said it had a lot of disparaging remarks and racist remarks about her thing was gaining women the right to vote. And she felt that if the black man got a right to vote before the white woman would, she said basically that she would cut off her arm before she would let something like that happen.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so she said things like, you know, and the black woman was her best place was in slavery, basically. And so now she's been considered some type of social justice and women's activist icon. And I'm pretty sure people like considered that social justice work in that time. So the definition definitely does change because, you know what I'm saying, as time progresses, the laws change. And so we have to make sure that we are on the same page when we talk about what social justice is in our own specific movements. Because I guarantee you right now, if anybody asked me to go speak about what Susan B. Anthony did, I wouldn't be doing it because she doesn't pertain to what I have to talk about when it comes to social justice. She didn't want social justice advancement for people of color or black people, you know? So
For sure. Same thing with people like Margaret Sanger, you know what I'm saying? People that used to have Sims. I can't remember what his name is, Sims, but he was the like father of gynecology, apparently, but no one talks about him performing these gynecological surgeries on enslaved women with no anesthesia because black women didn't have feelings, right? They apparently didn't have any connectors down there. They had no feeling or no emotion, regardless of them crying out and screaming out and things in pain and things of that nature, right? So like these people are sick. And they literally have monuments and things of that nature to them. And then they whitewash the history to make it seem like these were movements that were made for black people.
Yeah.
And then they include them into this whole social justice argument, right? This whole argument of what they try. Somebody, one of the definitions called it like as leaving individualism, right? And when they take away the individual, right, they automatically move towards socialism, right? And then because it's called social justice, now you've put it into a whole nother category of something else when it's really about the way that people and entities move around injustices that are happening right now. You know what I'm saying? So there are people who are not getting the things and are not having the rights and privileges that they're supposed to have. And when we move to protect and rally around those people, that is social justice, period. Right? Protecting the rights that everyone is supposed to have. That's what social justice should be, as opposed to what all these other definitions are. So my biggest thing is that social justice is an action verb. It's about taking actions, right? To move towards a certain direction.
Most definitely.
I wanted to go. So on my Facebook page, I've intentionally been trying to share like things for this conversation. This week in and of itself has been insane, right? So after the Kenosha killing, not even killing, Kenosha shooting of a black man shot in his back 17 times. I'm thinking about Amadou Diallo. 7 times. Amadou Diallo was at 27 times. Anyway, shot in his back 7 times by police officers in front of his kids, right? I read recently that they think that he's paralyzed from the waist down. So after that happened, they start having the protests. I'm not sure if if the NBA protest happened before or after the shooting happened. Do you know if they happened before or after the shooting? Not the Kenosha shooting, but the shooting of the protesters for the Kenosha shooting.
It happened after the white.
The 2 white men were shot.
Yeah, the 3 people were shot and 2 of them were killed. It happened after that.
It happened after that. So 3 people were shot. Were all 3 of them white? Or
they only thing they're seen shared on media is the 2 white guys that died.
That were killed. Yeah, I didn't see the third.
I'm not sure the third victim. Yeah.
Yeah. So after that happened, after 2 white protesters were shot, the NBA decided to take a day off, followed by what can you be more specific? Because you told me specifically what happened.
Yeah, after that shooting, the cops shot Jacob Blake, and then you had all these armed white militia members out, and one of the guys, Kyle Rittenhouse, shot 3 people and walked right by police officers as they were on the streets, and SWAT trucks, armored trucks, and police squad cars. The day after that, when they arrested him, the Milwaukee Bucks decided that they were not going to play their playoff game against the Orlando Magic.
Right.
Yeah, so they didn't come on the court after, they have a certain amount of time once the pregame stuff starts. They didn't come out there in time, and they released a statement saying that they will not be playing in protest of, cops shooting unarmed black men. And so after that, that was supposed to be the first game of the day scheduled for the day for the NBA. They had like 3 other games scheduled. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the teams got on board, and they all decided that they wouldn't play as well, players.
Right. And so after that, the Major League Baseball, something happened with that, right?
Yeah, the Milwaukee Brewers decided that they wouldn't play, the other team in Milwaukee. And then you just saw a response. Man, I forget the young lady's name. The young black girl.
Player, who made it to, yeah.
Yeah, she decided to pull out of the tennis tournament she was in.
Yeah.
And then, this is like it
was a grand slam.
Yeah, it was one of those events. So so the NBA players met, and then they decided that they would, take a few days off instead of just that one game, and then now they are talking about what their next moves are going to be. So yeah, but it was interesting. It was interesting that,
but it wasn't just them, right? So it was baseball. Hockey also did too. Hockey had and it's interesting with hockey because hockey is a very white sport, right? It's always a big deal whenever a black player is even on the team, and then when a black player is on the team, you hear about all this racism and things that they have to go through. And so I think it might have been just one hockey team, but I do remember hearing that a hockey team that like took the knee or something too, and then there were baseball teams, and then you have the girl in tennis. So there's like this wave across all sports, which is abnormal, just because it has not happened before, right?
Not on this level, no.
Not in every sport at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Like there have been individuals, and usually they were individuals like by themselves, similar to Colin Kaepernick, right? So at the beginning, Colin Kaepernick was kind of alone. You know what I'm saying? And the thing, or at least he was pulled out. You know what I'm saying? Or singled out as a lone wolf. You know what I'm saying? Whereas now it's very clear that it's a whole team, and then you even have their sponsors coming behind them saying that we support our team and their movement. You know what I'm saying? Where you definitely didn't have that. You know what I'm saying? Before.
Right. Correct.
So like that's very interesting. But I also thought it was interesting, and I saw a whole lot of laughs on my page when they were like, okay, the protest is over. It's like, okay, we did a 30-second protest. So I don't know. I don't know what's up with that.
Well, it's a lot of things, what I'm saying, that goes into like these protests with financial ramifications for the players and fines of that nature. Because everybody and LeBron, everybody ain't, making tons of money. Everybody ain't, one of the elite players. Some of them just on team, just they spot could be taken at any minute. So I think a lot of the decision was based on players who couldn't really afford to like lose it all if that was the case. But at the same time, it was done out of respect for the Milwaukee Bucks. Over the last few years, the Milwaukee Bucks, they had two players who have experienced racial terror at the hands of the police.
Really?
Yeah, one player, Sterling Brown, who led the team out for that.
He spoke. I saw that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he actually was assaulted by police officers. Had the knee to his neck and brutalized over parking in the handicap space one night at like a Walgreens or something like that. And then prior to that, one of the other players who used to play for the Bucks a couple years ago, John Henson, he had the cops called on him as he was in a jewelry store shopping for jewelry, and they set the alarm off because they thought he was coming in there to rob the place while he was actually shopping. And the police showed up in the midst of him shopping, questioning him because he's a big 6'11" guy in a jewelry store looking to buy some jewelry in Milwaukee.
No, he's a big black man, right? Yeah. If he had been a 6'11" white man or Asian or Indian or anything else, it probably wouldn't have been okay, right?
Yeah, most definitely. So, they had a particular, connection to this because they had players who they were teammates with who were affected by police violence against.
Right. And forms of social injustice, right? So I'm really glad that you brought that up because that's a really good way to segue into the bigger conversation that I wanted to have. So the interesting thing is that social justice comes in many facets, right? We're on the forefront fighting for many different things. So here you have two men who are wealthy, you know what I'm saying, in comparison to other people who still have social justice issues. I still can't go into a building and buy jewelry because of the color of my skin and for people being intimidated just by my presence, right? I can't do something, well, it's technically illegal, right? Parking in a handicap parking spot, but it's a $500 fine, right? Give me my ticket, leave me alone. Because he clearly has the money to pay for it. Why is your knee on his neck? That's what I'm confused about, right? So when we talk about social justice issues and what we're actually combating, what we're fighting for, these are the types of conversations that we need to have. Other things that social justice focuses on is, for instance, there's social justice when it just comes to simple fact checking. I think if I follow this particular feed right here, the CNN fact checker, so they basically fact check after every Democratic and Republican speech, right? They make sure that everything is clear. But misinformation is a form of social injustice, right? When you inform people of lies or you give people information that is not true, which causes them to create these biases and prejudices against other people and cultures and communities, that's a social injustice. Do you agree?
Yes, that's definitely a social injustice because that's something that this current administration and previous administrations too, but we're going to talk about this current administration, presidential administration. That's something that they've been hell-bent on, is spreading false information out there, misinformation out there, and they know that it triggers people, in particular their supporters, to latch on to every word, and they spread the whole theme of fake news and all that type of stuff, but at the same time they do the most lying of any administration that's been in office since I've been alive, at least. So
for sure, I think one big misinformation thing that's going on is this whole conversation around protesting, right? Around protesting and the history of protesting and all of these new regulations they're trying to put in place over protesters and things of that nature, which is insane, right? Because one, I've always had an issue with the conversation around peaceful protesting. I don't know when protesting has ever been peaceful. Because if you look at the protesting that was happening in the 1950s, they were getting dogs sticked on them. They was getting their heads knocked off. They were getting spit on. They were getting hot, all kinds of water hoses. Everything was happening, and they were getting beat, the Pope beat out of them. So there at no point was that nonviolent, right? It was a controlled, they had a lot of self-control to not respond, but at no point was that a nonviolent protest. Now we fast forward to what's going on right now. Another form of, in quotation marks, nonviolent protesting. But just a second ago, we had white people up at the Capitol with AK, whatever those guns are called, 47s, and about these masks and all this, and about land and all kinds of stuff, right? And there were no bills presented to be put on the floor for the safety of the American population. Correct?
True. Very true.
So I don't understand how people can come to a federal building with guns out, talking about their laws are being violated, pushing up against the cops. Nobody gets hurt. Nobody gets maced. And no bills are drawn. But then all of a sudden, you have Black people people protesting Black bodies and bodies that are not white. These bodies that are protesting get shot more than one time, right? Because it's not the first time that some protesters that got shot, right? In this whole 2020 protesting thing. This ain't the first time that some white people that got shot by what are they calling them? I don't want to call them militia because I think that's too nice of a name. Terrorists. That's what they are. By these terrorists, right? It's not the first time. But now we have bills being put on the floor. I also wanted to show you, I know that you probably already know, but you see this right here? Christian site raises over $97,000 for Kenosha shooting suspect Kyle Rittenhouse after crowdfunding. Did you see that?
No, I see it now. I see when every time something happens where some type of white person that's participating in domestic terrorism and white supremacy, and they do some, they're always hailed as some type of hero within the white community by certain people. And
I want y'all to see this Christian site raises over $97,000.
Well, yeah, that's how they always do it. That's historically what's been happening. You know, we people love to hear that. You know, this is a Christian nation, but you know what I'm saying, everybody knows it's not a Christian nation because they don't practice anything about what Jesus Christ was about.
And maybe we don't know, or maybe you don't know what Christianity is, right? maybe you've been misled to think that Christianity is something that it isn't, or maybe there's more than one form of Christianity, right? Just like there are more than one form of many different things, and we are just not open to understanding that the form of Christianity that's practiced here in the United States by a certain group of people is not the form of Christianity that you think about.
Well, yeah, exactly. I feel like that, you know what I'm saying? You know, the first slave ship was named Jesus.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
So
yes, it was.
That's symbolic of how, you know what I'm saying, religion has been used to brutalize, murder, and manipulate and enslave people. And
confuse, misinform, miseducate. Yes, it has. So that's one tool that social justice definitely tries to combat. It's the misinformation, the misinforming of what's going on. And the best way for us to do that as scholars is to come out here and let's speak on the narrative, right? Let's take part in the conversation. Another thing that I wanted us to look at is like all these police chiefs that are like being taken out of office. This one is for raping for children, but there was another one that I saw. Oh, that was you. Arkansas County Sheriff Todd Wright said that he would submit his resignation, turning his badge and gun. His resignation comes after audio leaked of him making racist remarks. His resignation is effective immediately. He will not be active, but he will receive pay. He still get a whole another month of pay until September 30th. And he's probably gonna get retirement too, right?
I don't know how the department is set up, but he didn't get fired, so he's probably entitled to whatever retirement or pension he got. He's probably entitled to it. It's real tricky when it comes to sheriffs, because sheriffs are elected officials. They're not appointed by the mayor. They're not appointed by city elected officials or state or federal. And so when you elect people, you know what I'm saying, the only thing you have to really when to combat that is, they either have to resign or you have to elect somebody. And and the interesting thing about that is, there's laws where you can recall people for their actions. So your city director can be elected to office, but if they do something and it's racist and it's caught and it's documented and they have a meeting about it, you can get enough signatures on a petition to recall that election and redo it over. If enough people who actually voted and registered the vote gather the signatures. With the sheriff, that's not the case. The Arkansas law to recall does not cover sheriffs. So there's only two things you can do for the most part. They have to either force them and pressure them to resign if they do something wrong, or you just have to wait until it's election season again and either hope they don't run again or put a candidate against them. And so it was big because he said he wasn't going to resign after making these racist remarks. He said the N-word over 9 times in audio footage. And he was arguing with the mother of his child when he was saying this, calling her an N-word lover.
Wow.
And, so that's why they had the whole, and she recorded it because she was upset, but then she went back and said she was wrong for doing that, but it's too late. The audio got leaked.
Right.
So that's what ended up happening. And so people were upset because he probably gonna get some type of retirement or pension fund. But that's the way we have to do that is we have to put laws in place to actually take the power away from that individual. So we have to create a statewide database when we have police corruption and misconduct to where it's illegal to hire them once the violations and offenses are so serious. So we have to get legislation around in the legislative session to do that, create that database. And, that's something about it. And then we have to make rules in the department where when you do stuff like this, you automatically lose your insurance, your pension.
Right.
Dick Gregory about that. We gotta stop. We gotta give them something to lose. So when they make decisions, even if we're not gonna get rid of all the races in law enforcement, but if you really want to do something out of the line and so racist that you risk your livelihood, your children, your spouse, you jeopardize all of that just because you want to be racist in the moment, and you lose it all. You deserve to lose it all. You deserve to be convicted and face whatever consequences. But got to put that on your mind first beforehand, because qualified immunity is the first thing that's on most police officers' minds. Qualified immunity is the fact that if you do something wrong, a lot of times the department will take your word over it and there's no charges are going to be filed. So that's why they feel so protected, that qualified immunity,
Right. So one of the things that we need to be asking for, right, because one of my big issues with protesting, particularly people protesting and not knowing what they're protesting for, right? We just out here marching. We don't got no demands, like no clear-cut demands. Like qualified immunity needs to be a freaking demand, right, on everybody's list. Like they need to go. Right. And so I think that whatever these demands or expectations are, some of them need to be across the board. You know what I'm saying? Some of them need to just do all of us like we know the principles of my God. Okay, now everybody don't know the principles of my God, but like we know what these basic principles are. I think some of this stuff just need to be basic. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I'll tell you why some of that stuff is not already basic, but go ahead.
Okay, well, I will go ahead because I'm moving on to this next topic, because I kind of want to just kind of touch on a lot of different things that social justice touches, because sometimes I think people think that social justice is just police brutality, but it's way more than that, right? So go ahead.
Definitely way more than that. You got too many priorities. But I'll just say this right here. What I'm saying? When it comes to like stuff like making those priorities like qualified immunity, man, there's lists of demands out there for a lot of different people and a lot of different groups. The issue happens when it's this right here. When something like this, and God forbid these things happen, but they do happen. So we're not ever waiting on these moments with Jacob Blake or Breonna Taylor or Ahmaud Arbery or Sandra Bland. We're not ever waiting on those moments, but we just know it's inevitable sometimes for it to happen. But the issue comes in, with the George Floyd protest, Breonna Taylor stuff this year, and the people going out to protest. We love the energy for people coming out there and actually want to get stuff done. But there's organizers, there's activists and advocates that are already being put in place for years that know the list of demands that need to be put out there. But what ends up happening is certain people become influencers in the moment that ain't never been a part of any movement, never been a part of no protest, never organized, did no direct action. And so they coming in as newbies with their own agenda, not even knowing that, you know what I'm saying, regardless of how they feeling, you know what I'm saying, the fact is, it's already some things that already been put in place, but you got to take the time to reach out and know these people. Now, ain't like no gatekeeper at the same time, but the thing about if we constantly educating people without based off of reactions, you know what I'm saying, then that's what we're gonna run into all the time, because we don't have people on the ground prepared. We got people just reacting and responding when it's people that do that 24/7 every week for the year. You know what I'm saying? So that's
for sure. I agree, and I think it's a big difference between a gatekeeper and then like literally starting to build the tower all the way over from the bottom up every single time. Right? That's stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's people who've been out here for years. Let's go ahead and talk to them, use the foundation, and let's just keep building together instead of trying to build your stuff up from the ground. Because that's basically what I see happening. Like, I know for a fact, it's people been out here for several years trying to get focused on this, and here you go building a whole brand new foundation. I don't understand, right?
Yeah.
So, and then with you're about building your foundation with half information. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I feel you. I do. So there definitely needs to be some communication, some collaboration. You know what I'm saying? Without people feeling like they are being a gatekeeper, and we need to know the difference. We need to define these terms, right? Because there have been gatekeepers, but I don't think that's what's going on all the time.
Nah,
but
it ain't.
I'm sorry, you had something else?
No, I'm saying a lot of times when it comes to activism, it's really not too many gatekeepers out there. You know what I'm saying? It's mainly you see gatekeeper happen when it's people like trying to politics. Yeah, that's politics. Yeah. But you know, with the activists and the advocates, man, you know what I'm saying, a lot of them are just doing what they've been doing for years. And what happens is social media kind of blows up other people in those moments, you know what I'm saying? So
for sure. Another thing I wanted to talk about, I saw earlier this picture that went viral in like El Salvador somewhere of this little boy who was outside using the street light to finish his homework. So like this like a soccer player or something like saw the video, and he comes and he'll make sure that his whole community has electricity and all this stuff. Then like literally like 2 hours later, I'm scrolling in Facebook and I see this picture goes viral of children using Taco Bell's Wi-Fi to do their homework. Right here in the United States of America. Right? And then, I don't know if you can see my comments, but right up under my comments, you see somebody said, some people don't even have $10 for the internet. This is America. Because that's how much it costs here to get the cheapest internet service is about $10 a month. Even for the ones that they say are free, you know what I'm saying? It costs about $10 a month for you to get the cheapest internet service. And right now, with our kids being virtual, many of them, it's important that they have internet access. So the crazy thing is, you see they have a Chromebook, but they don't have the $10 that it takes to use those Chromebooks, right? And then a lot of times they're telling us, oh, well, you can go to the library, but they can't go to libraries right now because libraries are closed, right? Libraries are closed to public people. They can't go to, if you're Black, you can't go sit in Starbucks, right? Even before the pandemic. Because we already seen all of those issues with Black people trying to go and sit in Starbucks and do work like they're supposed to do. It's not allowed, for lack of a better word. But here we see babies with brand new Chromebooks that have been sent to them by their schools, clearly, that have to go sit in front of Taco Bell to complete their homework. Why is this a social justice issue? Oh.
Well, you know what I'm saying? Going back to that whole thing of like, you know what I'm saying, talking about what people consider like necessities, you know what I'm saying, what people don't understand is what's necessities to some is like a luxury to other people.
Right.
Ever since I kind of, you know, I got both sides of this whole going back to school thing with the pandemic. But a lot of people realize the ones that's like screaming at parents, keep your children at home. But everybody don't work from home. Everybody that can't live at home, stuff like that. So, you know, that's a luxury too. Everybody don't have that type of, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time too, like the fact that we just expect children to have smart devices and Wi-Fi at their houses, like that's not an extra bill for parents, and like it's not cheap. You know what I'm saying? It's not cheap to have a smartphone or a smart tablet or Chrome, whatever. But you know what I'm saying?
And then to keep up with it.
Yeah, and at the same time, we're talking about we're not even talking about areas in rural towns who have like weak bandwidth, and you know what I'm saying,
right?
Like horrible,
right?
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Yeah, and you know, even the teachers that's requiring students to turn on cameras, like stop acting like children live in circumstances that they're maybe ashamed to show what their background is and stuff like that. So this is an issue of equity. You know, so this is an economic justice issue. This is a civil rights issue. It's an educational issue. It's an environmental justice issue, because these things fall under those buckets when you talk about social justice, and you're talking about children trying to go to school. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's a luxury, and everybody cannot afford the luxury. And, you know, it's invasive into other people's lives. You know what I'm saying? Like, why, you know, like you want students to turn on a Zoom camera. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
When I signed up to go to school, I didn't ask you to come to my house. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? When I decided to work, I didn't ask you to come to my house either. You know what I'm saying? That's my privacy right there. And so that's why justice issues, you know, and the children, unfortunately, are the ones that are, you know, not being consulted in this time doing all of this, you know?
For sure. But honestly, as a teacher, though, that puts me between a rock and a hard place, because I am one of those teachers who are like, get on Flipgrid, show your face. If you don't show your face, it doesn't count, right? But one, as a teacher, that like when I see you, that allows me to assess a little bit where you are, right? I also understand that a lot of times college or school is your safe haven, right? You know what I'm saying? Is your safe haven. And hold on one second. Why don't you talk a little bit more?
Yeah. And I definitely get it, as far as like, you know, a lot of our students actually go to school to, you know, to basically, you know, get that pressure off of their shoulders. You know what I'm saying? That's the place where they can go. They know they can go get a meal. They know they can talk to somebody about issues. They know that they can get that one-on-one attention that they need from a teacher, because a lot of times, you know, the virtual connection is something that is missing, is the face-to-face connection and the relationship building with the teacher. And so when we go to the virtual world of education, you know what I'm saying, the meals are missing, the hugs, you know, the face-to-face.
The actual connection, the actual community connection. I agree. But you definitely have a lot to think about, because I never, ever, for whatever reason, thought about, like, maybe these babies just don't want to show what their house look like. That I don't know why that never crossed my mind, but that has never crossed my mind. So thank you. I'm definitely going to address that mentally. But I just wanted to show, like, this video, like we have a lot of kids here dealing with that issue, right? And that's definitely a social justice issue. This one I thought was interesting. I don't know if you saw this, but a Denver woman dies in car outside of hospital ER, and her body is not discovered for 3 days.
Now I ain't hear about that.
How you parked outside of the emergency room dead for 3 days and nobody know you there?
You got me on that. I don't know.
That is insane.
It is. I mean, the only thing I could think of, you know what I'm saying, if you just don't have, like, you know, being at hospitals and stuff like that before, I noticed that, you know, a lot of times security officers kind of patrol the parking lot to see what's going on in the parking lot. And I don't know how hectic things are with the pandemic, you know, but I don't know what's going on near the ER entrance, where you don't see what's going on in the.
Right. And wouldn't you be suspicious if a car was there for 3 days and hadn't moved? You know, like, I don't know.
It depends on where it is. I say that if it's in a park,
Right. It depends.
People do sit at the hospital for a few days. But if it was like right up on the ER, and even like walking by car, you see people sleeping in cars a lot.
Yeah.
By a car like 2 or 3 times and saw the same person, I might tap on that window as security guard.
You know what I'm saying? I get suspicious after 3 days. I'm gonna leave that there, but I just thought that was interesting, and I think that I do think that's a social justice issue. I haven't quite put my finger on why, but I feel like it falls to the category. Other thing I quickly wanted to talk about was these March on Washington. I didn't know that they were doing another March on Washington, but let
me say this real quick. I'll tell you how it's a social justice issue with the ER situation. And I know all my Black people that I know in particular feel this because I've done this myself. Black people will refuse, even in the worst circumstances sometimes, I've seen it, and I participate in this, we refuse to call 911 to get in that ambulance because we know how expensive it is just to take a minute ambulance ride to the hospital.
Yes.
I had a cervical sprain and a concussion when I totaled my car. And I was coherent enough to tell a lady, don't you call that ambulance, get off 911, I'm not getting in the ambulance. I called somebody to come pick me up to take me to the ER when that happened, because I wasn't going to pay the amount of money that it costs to take that ambulance ride for 10 minutes.
That's crazy.
And I know Black people do it all the time.
Yeah, they do.
You know, and a lot of times they don't respond quick enough. That's another social justice issue.
Yes.
The 911 operators, they don't respond in time. I've seen people get loaded up in somebody's truck, in the back of the truck, because we know the response time in Black neighborhoods lot slower in our communities. So to the hospital and not being able to make it out of their car, that's a social justice issue, you know what I'm saying, with the health.
Right. That's crazy. Yes. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I knew it was. I just couldn't put my finger on it at the time.
Yeah.
So I kind of sort of was following the March on Washington. I didn't know what was happening, but they redid the March on Washington. That's the famous march that happened where King gave his I Have a Dream speech. I think it's at the Lincoln Monument thing, or at the Washington Monument. Of course, it was not the first time he had gave this I Have a Dream speech, but it was the one where it was most memorable, and it was all over television, and people have copied that speech since then. But did you know that this was happening, that they were doing another March on Washington?
Yeah, I did. Been in the plan for a minute. You know, a lot of people were planning to do stuff in Washington this summer because obviously it's election year. So, you know, you even have people's campaign planning their big I forget the theme of what it was going on. No, it was a moral action movement for the Poor People's Campaign, which Martin Luther King was also a part of. But a lot of people were planning stuff ahead of the pandemic for this year because they knew this would be a pivotal year in election season and politics, and so it was already planned. But you know, people were kind of skeptical on what the turnout would be because everybody's supposed to be social distancing. I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah, but talking about it for a long time, you know.
Okay, this is basically what we were just talking about. So these are literally legislations that are on the floor right now where people are talking about criminalizing protesters for being on government property. So one of the things that is coming up is right now in Memphis, they have a bill on the floor that says if people are peacefully protesting just with signs on government property, they can receive up to 6 years in jail and have their voting rights revoked for the rest of their life and receive a felony charge for holding a sign on federal property after a law has been broken or somebody's rights and privileges have been abused. They're making that illegal to say anything. So that's what First Amendment right, freedom of speech. Am I right?
Yeah. Right to assembly, freedom of speech. That's all of that. And so, you know.
And right now they're literally writing laws into legislation to make that illegal, which should cancel itself out. So that's why I'm a little confused on that. How can you write an illegal bill in the first place? Why is that possible?
But because I mean, as you elect legislators to do to write bills, and sometimes they write bills that actually violate people's rights, and they come up with ways to word these bills to make sure that they can actually do it. Because when time that you write a bill and it's totally illegal to do that, then the Supreme Court will step in and rule that it's unethical and you can't do that. It's a violation of people's rights. But you know what I'm saying, when you breaking laws, then that's when everything is kind of up to who is rewriting the rules and abolishing the old things. Similar to slavery. The new name of slavery is prison labor. So slavery is outlawed, but if you commit a crime and go to prison, then it's totally perfect. It's totally perfect for you to be a slave and not work for anything. Similar to that, and so that's they do that type of stuff all the time, where they will go in there and amend the actual laws to make it fit what they want to do. So that's what legislators are elected to do: make the laws and amend the laws and rewrite them.
So we need some Black legislators.
Okay. We understand the importance of having the right to vote,
right,
and allowing everybody to do that. You need to be automatic voter registration by the time you're 18 instead of all this other stuff we're doing. But that just shows you how important voting is, because all the things they're doing to suppress.
For sure. Okay, last two things. I'm gonna let you get off of here. One of the things that I've been seeing is I talked about it a lot more last year. Last year was 2019, the year of return. Technically 400 years since the first documented slave ship arrived here in the United States of America, and Ghana and several other countries dubbed it the year of return, encouraging Black people, families, things of that nature to revisit and return to Africa, particularly West Africa, and try to retrace their lineage and their history and things of that nature. So whenever we talk about the continent of Africa in relation to Black people, African Americans in particular, I think it's like wrapped in social justice issues. It's wrapped in trauma. It's wrapped in turmoil. You know what I'm saying? Because there is so much misinformation on both parts, right? The misinformation that African Americans, Black people have about the continent of Africa, and the misinformation or the lack of information, right? The non-existent information that continental Africans have about Black people here in the United States of America. And then whatever hostilities were created to make us feel like it's not an option to come back and forth, or make us feel like we don't have any connection, right? So I just think that that's really interesting. I don't know if you want to talk about that at all, but I just think that kind of touches all aspects of social justice. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about is this 1957 Central High shoebox that was discovered. Yeah, but I'm talking about that last. Go ahead.
And I mean, no, man. I mean, basically, what I can just add to what you already said is, you know, the funny thing to me with always having a conversation about Africa and us as Black people, you know, so trying to understand our culture and understand our history, is as Black people, we do so many things unbeknownst to us that is just African.
Right.
We don't. We just go through our lives every day and we don't think about it. You know what I'm saying? How we make moments in our lives monumental, and the celebrations that we pick up in
the
yeah. The importance of acknowledging our elders, the importance of the importance of womanhood and manhood, and we do all of these things not even knowing that this is something that is in us spiritually. You know what I'm saying? We've been slain in the spirit of being Africans to the point where we do so many things now that we don't even know that's a part of our history. And so when people actually have been, my mind has been, we got to decolonize a lot of these people's minds, because when we bring up Africa a lot of times, they think that it's something foreign and that they're so obsessed with being American and rejecting their history. But if we could get people to understand that, saying that having that knowledge of self, that wisdom and understanding about who we are as people, you've been doing it the whole time. It's nothing to be ashamed of, and you actually can be proud about that and teach our children that, because that's part of us getting back to our center, getting back to our original state in our mind. Taking back our owning our history and our story. So
yeah, on that narrative, I
yeah,
say. So I'm gonna wrap it up by going back to the 1957 Central High crisis. So if you're from Little Rock, you're probably familiar with the crisis, but apparently new photographs were discovered that were basically snapshots in time that show the protests, right? And the interesting thing is in 1957, these protest photos that you see right here are actually, oh great, I can enlarge it, are actually white people protesting the presence of 9 Black children in their school, right? So they had all kinds of signs. They were spitting on these kids. They were sending bomb threats. All kinds of stuff was going on in 1957. They were very upset. They had to call in the National Guard, right, to deal with the unrest that was happening in Little Rock, Arkansas, under Governor Earl Faubus, I believe his name was. But it's interesting because America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, which is created on this First Amendment, this idea of freedom of speech, this idea of social freedoms, right? But they're only for certain groups of people, because you can see all these people is out here protesting, happy with smiles on their face, and no laws were written for them. We're going to actually, both O and I are moderators and speakers for the 63rd anniversary of the Little Rock Central High School crisis. And we're going to be having a virtual conference September 23rd through 25th. There's going to be a lot of things going on. There are going to be opportunities for you to interact with both of us. And we're going to be having like short snippets of information that not only have to do with protests, but just all kinds of issues surrounding social justice and Black bodies and movement and the demification of Black bodies and lives, the criminalization of Black movement. You know what I'm saying? So if you would, we would love for you to go to the page and like it. I'm gonna try to pull it up for you right quick. Show it to you. Go to the page, like the page, so that you can follow us and stay updated on all the information that we're going to be sharing with you. And it's not letting me do it. Look at that. Okay, well, I'll post in the link. Oh, here we go. Pages. There we go. Conversations with America's Youth, a virtual conference, right? So if you want to go and find it, I just made it the other day. So please feel free to go in and jump in there. Our hashtag is 63 years of protest, right? We know we've been doing this more than 63 years, but we've been doing it at least 63 years, right? So 1957, we know that white people were protesting then as well, but they were protesting, many of them were protesting the existence of Black people in their space. But there were some people who were protesting the opposite, right? They were protesting for humanity, for human rights, for equality, for equity, as Osyrus mentioned earlier. But basically, trying to bring it full circle, I really just wanted us to understand that social justice is an action verb. It is not a noun, right? Social justice is an action. It's something that takes people moving in a particular direction. It takes sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? It's not just something that's stagnant and off to the side that we watch happen. And also, we're defining social justice right now. So it's an opportunity for all of us to jump on board and add to that definition and create it and make it something that is concrete. Because as you can see right now, when we go on the internet, it's a different definition for every person who put one out there. So I encourage us to start taking control of our narrative. I encourage us to be more aware. I encourage us to read. Oh, and I just see we have one extra person in here. I didn't even see you in there. Hey, Miss Gay, Agnolia, Beatrice, would you like to say something before we get off of here? You're on mute.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm just excited to have had the opportunity to come in on the back end and hear the conversation. Definitely just wanted to make a comment about what Osiris was talking about as far as youth um, being, I guess, forced to turn on their cameras. We as educators are aware of that, and we're talking about showing youth how to put that background in the on their computer, so that that will not be um, a problem. Um, their social, their environment, their home life.
Mhm.
So definitely that is a conversation that we as educators have been talking about, because I too, I don't know what you're doing. If I'm not looking at you, you can see me, but I can't see you. I don't know if you're paying attention. I don't know if you're focused. And so what has been happening for me this week, I have been expected to teach virtually and face to face at the same time. Now, I wasn't necessarily supposed to do it this week, but that is what the expectation has been. Parents were given an option, teachers were not. Teachers were not given an option for anything, but parents were given an option um, to allow their students to go face to face or to be virtual. And um, and so we're doing what we can do. We're doing the best that we can. And so I accept the challenge. And today, specifically, I had 8 students in my classroom, and I had 4 students virtually. And we had a wonderful time. My virtual students were engaged, my face to face students were engaged, and I walked away today feeling very successful with the approach that I had taken this week in educating students under the circumstances that we are in right now. But I'm
Awesome.
thoroughly enjoying everything, and it is definitely a lesson that I'm glad I didn't miss.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I think that we'll actually probably get into a more conversation more about e-learning and things of that nature and what we're dealing with a little bit later. And we'll have some students involved in that conversation as well as some teachers and things of that nature. But thank you, because that is important, like you said. And I'm glad that you're aware of that and coming up with some ideas. As a college professor, I have not really thought about that, but I have had students like record from the car because they say it's the quietest place in their house, you know what I'm saying? Or from a bathroom, or and I'm fine with that, you know. I'm very flexible. But yeah, I agree. But having said that, all of these are social justice issues, right? Definitely. It's a social justice issue that you know, parents have options, but teachers don't, right? That's it. That's kind of an issue. You know what I'm saying? It's a social justice issue when we don't think about, you know, what our children are facing. So yeah, you're
Like,
right.
and let me say that a lot of teachers are also parents.
Correct.
It's a catch-22 there for those teachers that are parents.
Because if you're a parent, you have to send your child to school, right? In most cases, if you don't have someone at home to watch them, right? Because I do know a couple of teachers who are single parents who did not have a choice but to send their baby to school because they had to go to work. Yep. So I definitely understand, and we could talk about the ramifications of social justice around that, you know, too, if we wanted to. Um, but I was going to try to keep this conversation to about an hour. I think that we've hit that mark. Thank both of you so much for coming and joining the conversation. Just having a casual conversation around social justice and things of that nature, just so that we can start to inform ourselves and be more aware. I will find a way to send you all links on any of the articles that we went over that you were interested in. But also remember, you can always Google, right? Just Google it, try to find a scholarly article or one that has some weight behind it. Not to say that there's no misrepresentation in there, right? So we always have to use our thinking skills, but try to find something that's scholarly, or try to read a couple articles, right? So that you can have differentiating opinions. Okay, anyway, that's all I got. Thank y'all for coming. Peace and light. It's been awesome.
It has.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.
And reminding people of all that.